What if I told you the man who revolutionized gospel music, the one whose sound broke barriers and reached every corner of the world, was also one of its most controversial figures? This isn't just a story about chart-topping hits and sold-out concerts. This is about a man whose name echoed from church pews to nightclub speakers, from Sunday morning worship to Saturday night playlists. Kirk Franklin wasn't just celebrated, he was praised, criticized, and at times, outright attacked. And the deeper you go, the more you'll see. This story isn't just about music, it's about faith, fame, and the price you pay when you refuse to fit into the box the world tries to keep you in. Let me tell you, Kirk Franklin's rise wasn't a smooth, saintly climb to the top. It was a battle-scarred journey filled with lawsuits, public feuds, betrayals, and moments so explosive that fans were left questioning everything they thought they knew about him. Born in Fort Worth, Texas, into struggle and raised by a single woman who guided him toward the church choir, young Kirk carried something rare, a fire in his voice and a gift for turning simple praise into a force that could shake a room. But here's the twist, that very gift would one day split the gospel world in half. In 1992, he stormed onto the scene with his group, Kirk Franklin and the Family. This wasn't the quiet, conservative gospel the church had known. No, this was loud, electric, and alive. His 17-member choir wasn't just singing, they were preaching through rhythm, movement, and sound. He fused gospel with rap, pop, and even rock, creating a sound that felt like revival and rebellion at the same time. For some, it was groundbreaking. For others, it was blasphemy. Traditional leaders whispered that Kirk was contaminating the sacred sound with worldly music, but the more they criticized, the more the world listened. His 1993 debut album didn't just sell, it exploded, proving that you could worship God and still make the crowd shout like it was a stadium concert. Not everyone applauded him though. He was criticized for prioritizing fame over spirituality. And he surprised the music industry once more, right when it appeared that he was finding his style. With God's Property from Kirk Franklin's New Nation, released in 1997, Kirk elevated gospel crossover to a new level. Cheryl Salt James of the legendary hip-hop group Salt and Peppa was featured on the classic tune Stomp. This was unprecedented, a gospel tune that was played on popular radio stations, being blaring in cars, and being danced to in clubs. It worked, which is the most absurd part. He had figured it out, and a whole new audience found gospel music cool. However, stardom came at a high cost. Already, cracks were appearing behind the scenes, because they thought Kirk was taking all the praise and, more significantly, the money. Some choir members felt marginalized. Tensions escalated to a hazardous climax by 1999. Family members experienced feelings of betrayal, abandonment, and deception. A number of them sued Kirk Franklin in 2000 for unpaid royalties from the popular albums. What is unique about this story? These weren't competitors in the industry. He used to travel, perform, and pray with these people. It stunned the gospel world. All of a sudden, the man who popularized gospel was being charged with severing the trust that gospel music was known for. Franklin insisted that everything was done fairly and denied any wrongdoing. However, the harm had already occurred. His reputation suffered, and rumors about him became more widespread. And destiny took a surprising turn just as he believed his career could weather the crisis. Something happened in 1996 that nearly put an end to Kirk Franklin's career just as it was taking off. His life, not just his work. He stepped too far forward and fell straight off the stage into the orchestra pit during a performance in Memphis, Tennessee, in front of an enthusiastic audience. It was a vicious fall. He struck his head violently, and before anyone knew it, he was unconscious. Panic swept over the room as fans screamed and the music stopped. The news quickly circulated after he was taken to the hospital in severe condition. In a coma was Kirk Franklin. His followers and family feared the worst for days. It was uncertain to the doctors if he would ever awaken. The most absurd thing is that this accident did more than just endanger his life. It also turned out to be a pivotal moment that altered his perspective on music, faith, and his mission. It was truly a miracle when he opened his eyes at last. Despite the lengthy and agonizing recuperation, Kirk's spirit started to change throughout those months. Later, in a tearful appearance with Oprah Winfrey, He talked about how he nearly died and how that experience made him rethink everything. He made a vow to himself that he would return stronger if God offered him another chance. And that is just what he accomplished in 2002. He returned with the resurgence of Kirk Franklin, and it wasn't simply an album. It was a declaration. Fans greeted it with open arms, pleased to see their gospel hero alive and performing again. This is the startling part, though. Kirk's personal struggles were just getting started. Despite the thunderous clapping and soaring music, at the peak of his return in 2005, he shocked his audience with a confession. Sitting on Oprah's couch once more, Kirk stated that he had fought for years with an addiction to pornography. For a gospel performer, this was a revelation that could have ruined him. Many couldn't believe that a man who sang about God's love had been facing such a secret war. However, his candor also served as motivation for many who were silently struggling. It becomes intriguing at this point. Some fans respected him more because of his candor. Others saw it as further evidence of his dishonesty. Kirk still made hits, though. In addition to reaching the top of the Christian and gospel charts and even making its debut in R&B, his 2005 album Hero earned gold and platinum. Before a fresh wave of scandal hit years later, it appeared that he had weathered the storms. The world heard something unexpected in 2021. A phone tape of Kirk Franklin yelling and swearing at his eldest son, Carry On, was released. Some referred to the recording as evidence that Kirk was not who he seemed to be, and it quickly went viral. What distinguishes the story? Neither a competitor nor the media launched this attack. His own son was revealing their personal suffering. It paved the way for a family drama that would eventually become more widely known, and their relationship would be tested to the limit in the following chapter. Kirk Franklin's reputation was about to be rocked by a maelstrom that began with the 2021 audio leak. Critics and admirers were evenly divided. Some argued that his remarks demonstrated that he wasn't living up to the principles he advocated, while others asserted that any parent may lose their temper in a hot time. This was not a one-time argument, I assure you. It revealed a long history of intense conflict between the father and son. Carry On's social media posts and interviews revealed years of unresolved pain, emotional isolation, and strained communication. The world started to notice flaws in Kirk's long-held, picture-perfect family image for the first time. This is the startling part, though. The story became increasingly messy as it progressed. Kirk found himself under scrutiny once more in 2022, this time for something that transpired during one of his vivacious performances at the Bet Hip Hop Awards. His delivery of a verse rocked the gospel community. Both the lamb and the lion will submit to the goat. Not all fans just questioned the line. Because they saw it as implying that God would submit to the devil, they labeled it blasphemous. The critique came quickly and harshly. Furthermore, several traditional churchgoers felt uneasy due to his hip-hop swaggering, frequently twerking dance skills. They believed he was taking gospel music too far into the realm of secularism. In interviews, Kirk defended himself by claiming that he was just expressing delight and loving the music. However, the argument continued to expand. It becomes intriguing at this point. Despite all of the criticism, Kirk's career continued. He continued to put out songs, play in front of large audiences, and talk candidly about his faith and personal hardships. However, the domestic drama remained simmering. Carry On's public persona fluctuated, particularly following his bisexual disclosure. In a sincere interview with former NFL player Cam Newton in 2023, Kirk shocked many by candidly discussing a reconciliation with his son. His documentary, Father's Day, A Kirk Franklin Story, included the interview and chronicled his efforts to patch things up. In addition to Carry On, he had been distant from other family members. The most absurd thing is that this was evidence to some that he was a guy looking for atonement. Others saw it as an attempt to salvage his reputation. Nevertheless, there was an unvarnished quality to witnessing a father attempt to mend the damage caused by years of suffering. The fact that this tale was no longer solely about music or celebrity sets it apart. As the world looked on and passed judgment, it was about a guy trying to mend his family. And just when it appeared that things were beginning to calm down, fate took a surprising turn and dragged Kirk Franklin into a brand new scandal that nobody had anticipated. Kirk Franklin was featured in yet another headline following years of public outrage and personal turmoil. However, it had nothing to do with his own behavior this time. However, The infamous Oscar slap involving Will Smith was still causing a stir in Hollywood in 2024. The actor was looking for a means to restore public trust after his image took a serious knock. Unexpectedly, he made contact with Kirk Franklin. Let me tell you, there were instant questions about the choice. Smith asked Franklin to assist him in making a sincere public apology by going on stage with him at the 2024 BT Awards. The concept was straightforward: bring in a man who is well known for his faith and redemption tale to give the event legitimacy and spiritual significance. This is the startling part, though. It wasn't a healing time for everyone. Many wondered if it was a well-thought-out publicity stunt or true repentance. Kirk was seen by some as the ideal candidate, a real-life example of second chances. Others contended that he was jeopardizing the respect and trust he had earned over the years by becoming involved in another celebrity scandal. It becomes intriguing at this point. The action sparked a much larger discussion about the place of religious leaders in celebrity culture and whether or not spiritual leaders should be involved in repairing the harm caused to well-known individuals. The most absurd aspect was that Kirk's career once again began to conflate entertainment with ministry. Fans were left wondering if he was really there as a man of God giving advice or as a public person using the spotlight to further his own agenda. Throughout it all, Kirk continued to be a divisive figure who was admired and supported by many while questioned and condemned by others. His life has never been solely focused on music, which is what distinguishes the story. It has been about surviving, reinventing, and surviving while being watched closely by a society that demands perfection from its heroes. Kirk Franklin's tale was never a straight line. From his ascent with the family in the historic stomp to near-death encounters, legal actions, public admissions, and family conflicts, every step of Destiny's journey has an unforeseen twist. He developed into a guy who carried the burden of enduring debates while simultaneously pushing gospel into new frontiers. And one question still stands as his legacy is being revealed. Is Kirk Franklin the gospel legend who, in a unique way, introduced faith to the world, or a spark for controversy whose tale is yet to be written? Time and the audience will make the final decision.